The Southern African Development Community, of which South Africa is a member, is signing off a so-called economic partnership agreement with the European Union to bring down trade barriers and reduce tariffs.
The EU is the African bloc's largest trading partner, with annual trade totaling over 1 trillion rand. The European Union Commissioner for Trade, Cecilia Malmstrom, is making a trip to Kasane in Botswana to mark the occasion. And our Europe correspondent, Jack Parrock, caught up with her to discuss the deal.
You're heading to Botswana to sign and move forward with this economic partnership with the Southern African Development Community. Why is the EU looking to sign this? Why is it good for the European Union?
Well, it's a way to strengthen our partnership with important countries in Southern Africa. It's also a way to increase our economic and trade cooperation. But I think overall, especially on short term, it's better for the Southern African countries, because it opens up the EU market basically fully for those countries in Southern Africa. And it's asymmetric, so we don't demand the same liberalization for Botswana or South Africa or Lesotho, etc. And also some of the very sensitive areas are protected. So it's a way to strengthen the possibilities to trade with each other, to take away tariffs and obstacles, but it's also a way to strengthen the internal cooperation in SADC, which I think is needed and would be very important for the economic development.
South Africa has already had a free trade agreement with the European Union in place for 15 odd years. And a lot of people say that it's not really going to change that much, and potentially they could have spent more time in discussing regional cooperation. What do you make of that?
All our regional trade agreements in Africa are tailor-made for the region. And of course, in this case, South Africa is a very dominant economy, but it is very much in South Africa's interest to increase the regional cooperation, but also there are still tariffs and obstacles and complicated rules of origin that makes it expensive and difficult to trade with the European Union. So I think South Africa has a lot to benefit from this, because we develop those agreements together in partnership. So we will define, there's a lot of development money in it as well, so we will define with the countries how we can help to also facilitate trade in practice. That could be training of customs officials, setting up computer programs, it could be food safety agencies, expertise, whatever, in order to really take advantage of the factual increased possibilities to export beef and fruit and minerals to the European Union.
South Africa's relationship with the European Union has been at times complicated recently with regards to citrus fruit exports into the EU. The South Africans accuse the Spanish of protectionism of their industry and have kind of almost completely boycotted exporting through Spanish ports. How much trust do you think there is between the European Union and the South African Development Community when it comes to trade issues?
I think there is a lot of trade. Of course, the European Union have strict demands for food safety, because that's what our consumers demand, but they are totally open and transparent for everybody. When there is a disease or something, it can happen in South Africa, it can happen anywhere. Of course, we need to address the issue. On this specific issue, on the citrus, I met with the South African minister, Mr. Rob Davies, just a couple of days ago in Paris for a joint meeting. And we discussed this, and we have set up a working group of experts in order to try to solve this issue. So we are building trust gradually. We are in close dialogue and cooperation. So I am really looking forward to this agreement.
Now, this EPA that has been agreed still needs to go to be signed off in national parliaments, both in the European Union and in Africa. But the EU has insisted in these trade negotiations that it's implemented provisionally by October, which was the kind of deadline set, which means that there hasn't been really kind of deep impact assessments on what this EPA might do. Why has the European Union been so insistent on getting it put in provisionally before it's been ratified by Parliament?
Well, there has been lots of impact assessment, because even if it's now very recently that we really speed up the final negotiations and the final preparatory work, it's been discussed for ages. So we've done a lot of impact assessment, there's been a lot of evaluation, and we also don't want to get in a situation where some countries will lose preferences that they had before in a different context, that they ran out the 1st of October. So it's important not to have a loophole in our economic relations. So we will have the European Parliament hopefully voting on this beginning of autumn. There's a strong support for this. Member states have now all given their assent. They will also formally make a decision after in the autumn, I think, and then it will provisionally enter into force. And that is important because, I mean, we lose time and we lose possibilities every day.
These agreements tie these countries into long-standing promises, essentially, that when their economies change might be difficult for them to get out of. Do you think the EU would be prepared to be adaptable when it comes to these EPAs 10 years down the line if a country like Botswana, a country like Lesotho, for instance, grew their economy in a slightly surprising way, potentially, maybe?
Absolutely. And there are already a lot of safeguards inbuilt in the system. Safeguards if one vulnerable sector happens to, or one sector that is perfectly fine today but happens to find itself in a very strong competition because of this trade, the countries of Southern Africa can protect that. So there are lots of different safeguards that can be activated with very short notice. And of course, as in all agreements, there are review mechanisms where we sit together and look and evaluate what's working, what's not working. And we could, of course, make changes as the economy changes or as the reality does. But this is also a way for business to give predictability, because business and investment, and I think there are huge possibilities of increased investment in this region from Europe, and it gives predictability. And that is good for them, and that's why we need to have these comprehensive agreements.
When these countries are signing these things, obviously the United Kingdom remains a member of the European Union. Do you hear anything, fears from these countries when you're having these trade discussions about the potential referendum that's coming up?
Well, I haven't so far, but I guess the question will be raised when I go to Kasane to sign this. Obviously, the UK is still a member of the European Union. I really hope they will remain. If not, we will have to see, or they will have to see what kind of relationship they want to have. Obviously, then they will not be part of our trade deals.